In the middle of the 14th century, cities across Europe did not fall in war. They did not burn. They did not collapse overnight. They simply stopped breathing. One morning, a man would rise from his bed feeling well. By nightfall, his body burned with fever. Painful swellings rose beneath his arms and along his neck. Dark stains crept across his skin. Within days, sometimes hours, he was gone. Church bells rang so often that people no longer counted them. Graveyards overflowed. Doors were sealed shut. Streets emptied. And from London to Florence, from Paris to Prague, one question echoed through the silent cities: was this the end of the world? What few understood at the time was that they were witnessing the deadliest pandemic in human history. A catastrophe that would erase nearly half of Europe's population and permanently alter the course of civilization. This was the Black Death, and once it entered the cities, there was no escape. To understand how medieval cities became death traps, we must first understand what they were before the plague arrived. The early 14th century was not an age of decay. It was a period of growth, confidence, and connection. Thanks to generations of mild climate and steady harvests, Europe's population had exploded. Ancient Roman walls were no longer enough. Cities expanded upward and inward. Homes leaned over narrow streets. Workshops, markets, taverns, and churches pressed tightly together. Paris, Venice, Florence, London. These were living machines, dense, noisy, vibrant. And above them all rose the great Gothic cathedrals, stone monuments to faith, ambition, and human ingenuity. But beneath the surface of prosperity, the cities hid a fatal weakness. Medieval cities were marvels of commerce, but disasters of sanitation. Waste flowed openly through the streets. Animal carcasses rotted near homes. Clean water was scarce. Rats thrived in cellars, docks, and grain stores. People lived shoulder to shoulder, sharing air, food, and filth. It was an environment perfectly suited for something unseen to spread. Far from Europe's stone streets, in the vast grasslands of Central Asia, a microscopic killer had existed for centuries. Yersinia pestis, a bacterium carried by fleas living quietly among rodents of the steppe. For generations, it remained contained, until ecological disruption. Shifting climate, failing food sources, drove infected animals closer to human trade routes. The disease followed merchants, caravans, and ships, not with intention, but with inevitability. When the plague reached Europe's ports, it found cities already prepared for catastrophe. Infected ships docked, rats disembarked, fleas jumped to new hosts. The first victims were dock workers and merchants, then bakers, then priests, then entire neighborhoods. Cities did not understand what was happening. There was no concept of bacteria, no knowledge of contagion, only fear. Once the plague took hold, the city itself began to fail. Homes were marked with symbols of infection. Families were locked inside, sick or not. Watchmen guarded doors to prevent escape. Markets closed. Courts fell silent. Churches filled, then emptied. Doctors were powerless. Treatments made things worse. Bleeding weakened patients. Lancing swelling spread infection. The air was blamed. The stars were blamed. God was blamed. As death multiplied, so did terror. Parents abandoned children. Neighbors refused to help neighbors. The sick were left alone behind sealed doors. Bodies accumulated faster than they could be buried. Mass graves were dug outside city walls. The dead were stacked without names, prayers, or ceremony. Night carts rolled through the streets, collecting corpses by torchlight. The city, once alive with sound, fell into an unnatural silence. In desperation, people turned to extremes. Some sought salvation through prayer and punishment. Flagellants marched through towns, whipping themselves in public penance. Others searched for someone to blame. Ancient hatred resurfaced. Jewish communities were accused of poisoning wells. Despite official denials, violence erupted. Entire communities were destroyed, not by disease but by fear. Though cities were the epicenters, the plague did not stop there. Refugees carried it into the countryside. Villages vanished, fields went unharvested, animals roamed unattended, wilderness reclaimed farmland. Europe itself seemed to be unraveling. By the time the first wave ended, tens of millions were dead. Some cities lost more than half their population, but those who survived emerged into a new world. Labor became valuable. Old systems of power weakened. Social structures began to crack. Out of devastation came transformation. The plague did not just kill people, it reshaped cities. It rewrote society. It exposed how fragile human systems truly are. For centuries, the Black Death was seen as a medieval horror, a distant nightmare. But empty streets, locked homes, fear of the air itself, does that really feel so distant? History does not repeat itself exactly, but it echoes. And the cities of the past still have much to teach us. I'm Dr. watching the past so we can understand the present. And this is History Reborn.